Well, look, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome our keynote speaker today, John Manzoni, Chief Executive Officer for the UK Civil Service and Permanent Secretary of the Cabinet Office. John, you, I think it's fair to say, have been a friend of this organisation Reform, and we appreciate it. This is your third major speech for us. I'm just going to say that as the transformation strategy 2 weeks ago showed, the modernisation of UK government is accelerating, and you are playing a central role in that. So we say thank you, and please do give us your keynote speech today. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and thank you. I'd like to say thank you to Andrew and Reform for allowing me to open this conference for you and talk a bit about big data in government, and also to Jason for his introduction, and BT, of course, for hosting in this rather legendary building. I can recommend having lunch in the rotating tower. It's worth it. I want to talk to you a bit about the potential of big data in government and some of the hurdles that we may face along the way. We often hear that this is the age of data, or that data is the raw material of a new industrial revolution, and there's some truth in that, but there's also, of course, and there is enormous opportunity. It really can be a catalyst for a society, for an economy, and a country that works for everyone. Of course, data isn't new. There's always been data. The Doomsday Book is data. The Rosetta Stone is data. But the rapid advance in technology and the development of analytic tools and techniques mean that we can now gather and share data in enormous quantities. We can process and analyse it at previously unimagined speed, and we can draw conclusions and create policies and services that reflect how people live right now. And we can help them live better, more securely, more healthily, and more prosperously as a result. Data entrepreneurs are mining public sector data to create apps and services to make our lives more convenient. Services driven by open data are already giving people more choice in where they get their healthcare, where they live, and where their children go to school. There's even a great British public toilet app, a sort of relief map of the country. Apparently. Has anybody ever used that? No. In government, we get this. We've always held enormous quantities of data, and we need to make sure that we use it properly. Getting this right is the next phase of public service modernisation. And that's why this month we did publish the Government Transformation Strategy, and the Digital Economy Bill is in the last stage of its journey into law. There are 3 key areas of opportunity that we need to grasp. First, improving the experiences of the citizen. Second, making government more efficient. And third, boosting business and the wider economy. The impact of data analytics and big data in our lives, for example, the way online retailers tailor their recommendations for the food or the books or the music we buy, is already quite familiar. Less has been said about the transformative power of this technology for the delivery of high-quality public services, and it's time that that changed. With the evidence of data, we can spend less time developing policies and services that don't work, and instead focus on continuously improving the ones that do. I want people to turn to digital public services as readily and confidently as they do when shopping, socialising, or checking bus times. By doing so, we can actually change the way citizens interact with us, making the relationship we have with them more transparent, more responsive, and based on increasing levels of trust. For big service delivery departments like the Home Office, HMRC, and DWP, data analytics means the ability to search across organisational data sets. It can provide data for operational teams to put into practical effect. In DWP, for example, providing job seekers with more targeted advice and opportunities that closely match their personal profiles. The department is also working on data-informed tools, such as interactive visualisation of benefit claimant trends. There are growing numbers of examples where data is being used to address people's real concerns about their daily lives, providing solutions that were simply not available before. In June last year, for example, the Land Registry and Partners published the first UK house price index, provided a single source of information as opposed to the multiple competing versions which existed before. Land Registry data has also been used to create a range of information services, from whether rude-sounding street names have an impact on house values, they do, by the way, to more serious matters such as whether your home is on a floodplain. Land Registry's Flood Risk Indicator Service uses data from the Environmental Agency to identify flood risk for any registered piece of land within England and Wales. The Companies House service gives us free access to real-time information on companies. It's receiving millions of search requests every day from people checking supplier and customer information. The service can also be used for more mundane but practical reasons. If you're getting in builders to do work in your home, you can go to the Companies House website and check them out before you do. Healthcare is another exciting area. Moorfields Eye Hospital and DeepMind Health are partners in a research project that could lead to earlier detection of eye diseases. At the moment, clinicians rely on complex digital eye scans. 3,000 of these scans are made every week at Moorfields. But traditional tools can't explore them fully, and the analysis takes considerable time. Moorfields will share a dataset of 1 million anonymised scans with DeepMind, who will analyse them using machine learning technology. This can detect and learn patterns from data in seconds to quickly diagnose whether a condition is urgent. With sight loss predicted to double by 2050, the use of cutting-edge technology is absolutely vital. The right treatment at the right time can prevent many cases of blindness or partial sightedness. Up to 98% of sight loss, for instance, resulting from diabetes, can be prevented by early detection and treatment. Analysing data can also play a direct and powerful role in protecting the most vulnerable in society. The Home Office Child Abuse Image Database has transformed the investigation of child abuse crimes and child protection. It won the Civil Service Innovation Challenge in 2015. The database brings together all the images of abuse that police find. Using the image's unique identifiers and metadata, they can check devices they've seized from suspects against the material on the database much more quickly. Previously, a case involving, say, 10,000 images would typically take up to 3 days to review. Now it can be reviewed in 1 hour. So we have a process that is cheaper, less labour-intensive, and more efficient. That is all good, and of course it makes the investigation and prosecution of these appalling crimes vastly more effective. There are also examples of government data meeting needs that more of us will be familiar with, like tax. Personal tax account from HMRC now takes real-time digital approach. For the first time, this is a complete joy, you can log on when you like, check your tax information, and manage your details online in one place. More than 8 million citizens have now signed up, including, I'm sure, some of you here today. HMRC's digital team is now working around 30 new online services. Government open data combined with digital technology can also fuel an open economy. It'll provide information that entrepreneurs, data startups, and the general public can use. In 2015, the digital sector contributed around £118 billion to the economy and supported around 1.4 million jobs. The UK government was an early world leader in open data. So far, we've released about 30,000 non-personal data sets in machine-readable formats for no cost and open for anyone to use or to build upon. This has enabled the creation of innovative products that deliver value for the citizens. So far, these data releases have been turned into over 400 different apps. You may well have used some of them yourselves. The Flood Alerts API, which uses Environmental Agency data to provide 15-minute updates about flood risk. UK Food Hygiene, which lets you see takeaway and restaurant food hygiene ratings to help you make decisions on where to eat out. Fill That Hole, a site for reporting potholes or other road hazards across the UK using ONS census geography data. And there are also apps for finding the best dentists, the GPs, the best schools and universities in your area. The list of sectors tapping into the DEFRA group data from LiDAR, which is the airborne laser equivalent of radar, is truly remarkable. British wine producers are using the terrain mapping data to help them decide where best to plant vines. And if the recent prominence of English sparkling wine is anything to go by, they're certainly having great success. Architects are using it to build a model of London as they plan the next high-rise building. Computer game developers to build new landscapes for Minecraft, and archaeologists to discover lost networks of Roman roads. In October last year alone, there were almost 21,000 downloads of LiDAR data from data.gov.uk. Some companies don't only use open public data to build a business, but also to act as a positive disruptive force. Food trade, for example, maps the food supply chain system, making it easier for people to buy and sell fresh local produce. And other startups are using open data to provide data analysis tools and data products to support the growth of SMEs. A firm called Geolytics offers a range of products based on geospatial data, giving smaller companies access to information that they would not otherwise be able to do on their own, and helping them to solve business location issues in the process. So as we look to improve the availability, quality and use of government data as the basis for fully transformed public services, it is also providing a new stimulus for data-based business. Because government data is public data, we have a duty to use it well and open it up where possible, and to be seen to be doing it cost-effectively, efficiently, proportionately and appropriately. But it is not without its challenges, and I want to address two in particular. First, of course, is winning and retaining public confidence, and second, building civil service capability in how we collect, store, analyse, share and use the data. Public trust is absolutely critical in achieving our ambition for data-driven government. Information and data is power, which is why historically the ability to communicate and understand it was so jealously guarded. Now that we're openly releasing information, we have to do it responsibly. Trust means giving people confidence that their data is used appropriately and effectively, and that it's secure, particularly when it's being shared by different authorities, and that trust has to be earned. In partnership with civil society, GDS published an ethical framework for data science in government. It's based on the key principles of data security, openness, user need, and public benefit. And it highlights the importance of ensuring the data and the models we are using are always robust. To complement this, the Office for National Statistics has adopted a framework called the 5 Safes for building and maintaining trust and confidence. Safe people, safe projects, safe settings, safe data and safe output. And we're looking outside of government as well. The Royal Society and British Academy are conducting an independent investigation into how data is and could be used by government and the types of governance that may be required. We need to make sure that the British public are with us on this journey and maintain their trust that we're using and sharing data responsibly and effectively. Transparency, of course, is a part of this. Transparency of evidence, showing you're working, and opening up to the greater scrutiny, the data and analysis on which we base policy decisions. For transactions such as driving licence and passport applications, users can now see the data government holds about them and change it if it's wrong. We must also have the confidence that a person accessing a service is who they say they are, and we must do that in a way which the public trust. Verify, the government identity service for citizens, is enabling people to access a whole range of online government services easily, securely, and a way which builds their trust. By 2020, we're aiming to get 25 million people using that service. There are massive opportunities for Verify outside of government as well. That's why we're working with the identity providers to understand what data we can share with them so that people can use a single verification service for all their digital transactions, such as online banking or even booking a flight. But providing transactional services is only part of what government does. We also use data to identify individuals for support where there's a wider impact on society, or to develop policy, plan services and outcomes, or to promote innovation and allow citizens to hold us to account. The introduction of new legislation on data access in the Digital Economy Bill is designed to give confidence that government is doing the right thing. The bill provides a robust legal framework for sharing data between public authorities where there is a clear public need and benefit. A case in point is the Troubled Families Programme to get children back into school, put adults in employment or on a path back to work, and cut youth crime and antisocial behaviour. To identify the families in need of help, public authorities need to see information held by other public authorities. The bill also makes provision for public authorities sharing information with energy companies to identify customers living in fuel poverty so that they can automatically receive support, such as energy bill rebates or energy-saving measures. We see a clear link between public trust and government capability in its handling of data. In May 2016, a survey for the Government Data Science Partnership showed that public approval for government sharing data is actually quite high when they accept that it is used in measured, proportionate and targeted ways. So the way we collect, store and release our data must keep pace with expectations. We've introduced the first 6 developer-friendly open registers of reliable and up-to-date data on specific areas that we can use with confidence to build a service. These include countries, territories, English local and English local authority registers, with much more to come, including everything from police stations to schools to job centres to doctors and to courts. We need to think about the collection and storage of data as part of core national infrastructure, rather in the same way we think of our road and rail systems or our energy supply or our telecoms networks as infrastructure. To give confidence that we can handle data and realise its potential effectively, we also, of course, need the right people with the right skills in the right place, in government and across the economy. We're still very short of data science skills in government. Such shortage is not unique to this country. Research in the US predicts that by 2018 they will be short of 190,000 data scientists. Here in the UK Civil Service, we're growing the specialist data science community in a variety of ways, from direct recruitment to training to defining new career pathways for analysts. The Data Science Accelerator programme is tapping into the 3,000 or so analysts from other disciplines looking to develop their data science skills. A data science campus opened its doors at ONS's headquarters in Newport last October, and the first intake for a new apprenticeship in data analytics started work on their 2-year vocational training programme at the end of last year. And because everyone at every level should have an appreciation of the power of data, we're developing a programme in data literacy for non-data specialists. The Digital Academy will provide skills training right across government for around 3,000 people per year. And together, these measures are nudging us toward a cultural shift in the status of data in government and those who work with it. And how government uses data in service of the citizen will define how the citizen experiences government. When we get it right, we'll deliver the right service at the right time to the right person. And that, of course, is our goal. So to conclude, data underpins everything we do, but we could do so much more. The possibilities are tremendously exciting. Services for the citizen that are both targeted and responsive, more effective and more efficient government, and data as an enabler of growth in the wider economy. And we have to step up our efforts. We've announced that the plan is to appoint a new Chief Data Officer whose role will be to oversee this agenda, and also a cross-government senior data advisory board. But it's not without challenge, and we need your help. We need to partner with you to help us navigate this difficult ethical judgments about how to share data in the right way. We need you to tell us which data you want in the open and how, and we need to share scarce resources to build toward our overall goal. Data is at the heart of 21st century government. It puts the citizen front and centre. It powers effective decision-making on the front line. It makes government work for everyone by reflecting the world that we live in. And we're at the start of this journey, but I can't wait to see how we can accelerate from here toward a public sector which is truly in service of the citizen. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. I think I'm happy to take some questions.
I think we're all very touched as much as anything, of course, that you said so much on our agenda today on trust and health and crime, which obviously was very important for today's event. Your commitment to this set of ideas and your wish, as you said at the end there, to push on is absolutely clear. And then and then you just gave us a wealth of examples of the new enterprises which are growing from your partnerships with the private sector. So that adds a lot of dimension. And you asked for our help. So here we are. We've got 10 minutes or so, this is a great chance to offer our help to the Chief Executive of the Civil Service and offer our help and tell him what he should be doing. Who would like to come in? I'll take 2 or 3 together. So we have a hand in the corner, a microphone will come round, and we'll come here as well. We'll take 3. So 1, 2, 3. Would you like to introduce yourself, ma'am?
Sure. Aisling Benand from the Association of Medical Research Charities. So my question is, given that big data is so important and you've illustrated how important it is in health, what I'm concerned about is what more could we all be doing to communicate the importance of this and to educate the public and bring the public with us? Because I think a lot of emphasis has been focused on the technical side and getting it all to work, but perhaps not enough emphasis on bringing the public with us so that they will share data that's going to be important, for example, for research and for health and for service delivery.
Thank you very much. Can I take some questions?
Sure, yeah.
Thank you, John.
And if I forget them, you'll remind me.
I will. Thank you.
I'm Renata Sampson. I'm from Big Brother Watch, a campaigning organisation about privacy and civil liberties. And it's really a follow-on question from the question that's just been asked. Obviously, we are now our data, more so than ever before. We don't really have a choice about being online and sharing our data. It's as important to us, really, as our flesh and blood, increasingly so. So I'm enthused by your... by everything you've said about bringing people along. My concern is that in the analog world, we knew what was happening with our data most of the time. We were much more engaged. It was either a telephone conversation with a voice at the end of the line or letters back and forth. I'll be quick. Yeah. But I'm concerned that in the digital world, that's increasingly less, not happening as much. And I'm curious about what we're going to do to, or what government's going to do to ensure that every time an individual's data is shared, that their consent has been sought and that the individual knows what's happening with their data throughout.
Thank you very much indeed. And we'll come to Simon Clifford, I think representing Northamptonshire Police today.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yes. Is this coming through? Yes. So Simon Clifford, I'm from the Office of Police and Crime Commissioner, Northamptonshire Police. And one of the things in our recent police and crime plan was about working with data sharing with our local partners in terms of reducing harm. And certainly the technology is only part of the challenge around that. The secondary level is actually the data sharing agreements around that. And certainly, with the objective of reducing harm, this is an issue that is across all forces, and certainly from my perspective, it would be great if kind of the ministers could get together and say, health data could be shared with police, or local council data could be shared with police for these reasons. Have a national program, and therefore then we don't have to seek the same data sharing agreements, because when you apply a big data model, you don't know the full extent of how you're going to use that. And to pick up on the previous question, it becomes very hard to say every time you use that data.
So a sort of set of questions about how do we, how we're approaching it. And let me just sort of outline in a bit more detail a couple of things that I did mention. So first, the Digital Economy Bill, which is specifically designed to try and create an environment and a framework within which data can be shared with appropriate safeguards. And we'll come to health particularly in a minute, because it for the moment excludes health data. Mm-hmm. I think the first point is that and there are several sort of components of the Digital Economy Bill. The first is, it can be shared provided it is there to improve public services for the benefit of citizens. So for the benefit of citizens, fuel poverty I mentioned. There are others. We're all about to have to, a lot of people are going to have to change their TVs, right? And so the question is, how do we help people change the TV in due course as the spectrum is sold? These sorts of things, the troubled families I also mentioned, where we can apply data sharing to help somebody for that individual's benefit. That's sort of one set of areas where these things, where the bill is enabling. Fraud and error is another area where the bill is specifically targeting, because there's an awful lot of fraud and an awful lot of debt, actually. Debt collection and fraud is another specifically articulated area. Research and statistics. The ONS the Office of National Statistics measures the economy, but it doesn't actually measure the digital economy. So how do we get the Office of National Statistics so that it can actually get some data to measure that? And obviously research, again, for the benefit of the citizenry. So the Digital Economy Bill sets a framework, and underlying a lot of that framework are some principles which have been reflected in various, I mentioned the GDS ethical framework, I mentioned the 5 safes, the Royal Society and the British Academy do very similar things, which essentially say that these things can be shared provided it is in the citizen's interest. There are quite severe sanctions proposed for the use of data which turns out not to be in the citizen's interest, or for data which is shared, which, you know, not specifically for individuals' benefit. The data bill and these frameworks talk about anonymized data at all stages, so that you can't take a data set and sort of back calculate who they're talking about. So there's a sort of anonymization conversation to go on. So there are a series, and of course it's not an easy thing to legislate for, but there are a series of safeguards, and these various ethical frameworks, the work with the Royal Society and the British Academy, very important piece of work, because it's nothing to do with government, it's something that they're going to do. For instance, I think they're thinking of, transparency, they're thinking about principles of transparency, they're thinking about the principles of the democracy and democratic principles being applied to the use of data. All of these are safeguards against the inappropriate use of data, because, as you say, of course, if things start to be shared, then we've got to be careful. Now, with health, of course, we had frankly, I think we sort of misstepped on that sort of care.data. There was that. And I think that put us back a long way. But so, hence the Caldecott Review, which reported in July last year. And I think that's now out for consultation around, how, around a proposal that says actually there's a sort of, citizens have the option of opting out of having their data shared. Again, the data being shared only for research, only for the benefit of patients and for the benefit of the health of the country. So there are these, I wouldn't say, it's not nailed down, but I think there's a sort of set of things which go to try to address. And one of the reasons that the health sector was kept out of the Digital Economy Bill was precisely because Dame Fiona Caldecott had written a report, and we needed to consult with that, so that we need to think about how to take all of that forward in the health sector specifically.
John, thank you. As is the way of these conferences, and also the pressure on your diary, that's the time we have allotted. Go on, I'll just ask you one more thing. So we've got three years more in this Parliament. You've made absolutely clear your, I think to some extent, pride in what the government's done so far, but your wish to push on. Are you able to give us a kind of, I don't know, it's like milestone perhaps? How will we know at the end of this Parliament what would make you feel kind of great if at the end of this Parliament government's going to be doing something a little bit differently in this area, which we can really think, well, that's we've done a really good job there.
Well, Kevin Cunnington, who runs GDS, sitting in the audience, has just written something for us which says, look, by 2020 we're going to have more or less every interaction that each of us have with the state. And many of us in this room perhaps don't interact with the state that often, but there are many people in the country who interact with the state a lot more often than we do. But more or less every interaction with the state will be digital. Mm-hmm. In order to do that properly, we will therefore have created an identification to allow you to go into and use those digital interactions. And I do hope that the other thing, as I said, we are accelerating the agenda by I haven't appointed it yet, but we will be appointing a chief data officer to try and oversee this agenda in parallel to the digital and transformation agenda that Kevin is now running. And that I hope will, there are any number of really very exciting opportunities on data analytics, ranging from how the hell we make government much more effective and efficient,
Yeah.
to how we solve some of these very big issues,
Yeah.
targeting policies, targeting outcomes across the system. And I'm hoping that we will be able to have those so that we can look backwards and point at them. And I have to say, I always find it rather difficult to explain. My job is one of those things where you look backwards and say, well, you know, that changed, as opposed to look forwards. I know, you know, trying to make these changes inside government is not straightforward, but I think what I would leave you with is the notion that I think we are accelerating in this agenda. Yeah. And I think that is very important. And the sort of legislative hurdles that we have to get through, HMRC cannot share its data legally until we enable it through the Data Economy Bill. So we have to go through the legislative processes in order to do some of the most basic things that people look at us and say, why on earth aren't you doing this? And the answer is, well, it's not legal yet. Yes. So I hope we can accelerate the agenda. Pleasure to see you, Andrew. Thanks very much.
No, John, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.